So Half Upon a Time actually came out. It was my first book. It was a series of three. It came out in 2010, so it's been about 12 years. And it's a story of a, a boy named Jack. He comes from an entire family full of Jacks because there are so many fairy tales about Jacks. I figured it had to be like a family business. But he doesn't want to be a part of that business. His father like is the Jack who climbed the beanstalk and stole from the giant. And the giant chases his father back down to their town and like wrecks everything. So nobody in town much likes Jack's father, including Jack, and he just wants no part of adventure and excitement. Uh, I always shift back to Star Wars phrases whenever I'm thinking about adventure and excitement. So he's basically he's in school to learn how to rescue princesses and everything because that's the only way to advance in a fairy tale world. You have to become royalty if you want to get anywhere in life, or at least fight dragons and or defeat witches to get their treasure. And he's like, no, I just want to be like a normal farmer. Uh, and unfortunately, that's not how life works. And a girl in a black t-shirt falls out of a flaming circle in the sky right above him, and he reaches out to catch her, and he misses because he's not very good at this sort of thing. And it turns out that is a girl named May, who is actually from our world, until a seven dwarfs and a huntsman showed up in her house and kidnapped her and her grandmother. And as Jack hears this, he figures out that it sounds like her grandmother might be the long lost Snow White, who led this huge revolution against the Wicked Queen, and has been missing ever since. So they go to try to find and rescue her grandmother. That leads to a lot of twists and turns that took place over the initial series. But after doing that, like whenever I'm writing, I always plan out the entire series before I start, just for my own sake. I like to, even if things change along the way, I like to set things up. I like to seed plot points as I go, just for my own, like that's how I like to read. I like to see that an author had a plan and knew where they're going, just because it feels like you're in capable hands. And I love seeing things pay off. So I try to do that myself, whether or not I actually have capable hands. I like to at least pretend that I know what I'm doing and seed things for kids to discover as they read. So that's a long way of saying I had a complete story in my head for Half Upon a Time. And so when it was over, though, kids would ask, are you going to do more? They want to see more of the characters. And I never really had a story for that. And I didn't want to just go back and do more stories about these characters without having like a solid story for it. And then recently I'd always had it in mind that because this was the original series was about Jack and his family and all these other characters, they involved giants left and right. So I thought it'd be fun to do a story about the giants from the giants' perspective. And that was basically the only thing I ever kind of thought about for over the years. And I just kind of let it sit. And it eventually became the story of Once Upon Another Time, which is about a girl named Lena, who is actually a giant, but she's 5 feet tall. So she's kind of the equivalent of if she were human, she would be like 5 inches tall. So she's a true giant. She was born of two giants. She has giant strength, but her people don't accept her because she looks like a human. And to giants, humans are the rodents who come up and steal from them and get them into trouble and stuff. So she has to hide who she is. She has to none of the other giants really know her secret except for a few of them, and the few that do always look down on her and make her feel like just not a part of her own culture. And that's kind of led her to exploring down below the clouds, since the giants live in the clouds. And she's discovered the city below of cursed humans that has welcomed her because they're all like it's people like Pinocchio and Humpty Dumpty, creatures that sort of were once human and were cursed, or they were born this way, but they are like fully cognizant and everything. So it's this kind of city where all these cursed individuals have ended up, and so they're very accepting of bringing in new people. And it's also the city where the rebels against the Golden King are operating, and the Golden King is my version of King Midas, and he's the big bad in Once Upon Another Time. So he's looking for the cursed city because he knows there's a character named the Last Knight who's leading the rebellion, who hides there because the cursed city is like protected by this spell where if you're looking for it, you can't, or if you're looking for it with malicious intent, you can't find it. So the Golden King actually has our second main character in his employ. That's a genie named Jin, who is he's the first new genie in thousands of years, and he's only been around for about 12 years as well. Lena is also 12. Jin, actually, there are some Easter eggs from Half Upon a Time where Jin gets, I don't want to spoil things, but one of the fun scenes I got to write in Half Upon a Time was a story about a fairy godmother fighting a genie, because I thought like that was the kind of point of Half Upon a Time for me. I got to take anything that sounded like a joyful thing for me, smushing all these characters together and seeing what happens. So I was like, yeah, let's make the genie and the fairy godmother fight. And it doesn't go well, but what happens during that scene actually leads to Jin. And unfortunately, as a young genie, his elders have like declared that he has to serve humans for 1,000 and some odd years to learn humility, so that he will be able to handle his magic and his omniscience sort of without kind of taking over the world, because he's got too much power for like such a young kid to really understand. So they've limited his power, they've limited his omniscience, so he can only access his his all-knowing knowledge via a voice in his head, who he calls the cosmic knowledge, and is very kind of snarky and judgmental. And he doesn't have access to most of his magic, like I said. He can basically only teleport or change how he looks. He can only really do things for him, like to himself. But he is in the Golden King has his ring, which is like his item of power. So the Golden King orders him to find the last knight, which puts Jin on a course with interacting with Lena. So this was an idea that like it felt sort of timely, because Lena, who you might realize comes from Thumbelina, it's so much about like how she comes to deal with sort of who she is, and what to do if maybe the people you love aren't really there for you, that they might reject who you are because they don't really understand, or you're just different. So this is very much a book about her kind of coming to grips with her identity and becoming okay with it, while also realizing that some people might, when the Cursed City residents find out she's actually a giant, they initially reject that because they're afraid of giants. And so she has to kind of come to grips with that from both sides, her giant heritage and the people who she sort of fits in with, at least physically, because she's their size. So yeah, there's a lot going on in Once Upon Another Time. At the moment, it's going to be a trilogy, and the second book is coming out in September. It's called Tall Tales, strangely enough. And the cover is actually really fun. It shows Lena, Jin, and Lena's giant cat, who is my version of Puss in Boots. He's literally a giant cat. He was her pet up in the clouds. So he's just a normal cat who happens to be wearing a hat that translates his meows into words. So he's not any smarter than an average cat. He runs at the first sign of danger and everything and abandons her, and then comes trotting back and is like, oh, what's going on? Where are the treats? So he was a joy to write because I love cats. But the rest of the cover is Lena and Jin sort of walking into a city full of very tiny people, which is Lilliput from Gulliver's Travels, which was a joy to write too. I figured if I was going to do the story of Thumbelina, and without spoiling things, the story of Tom Thumb might come in as well. It seemed like a natural to just make some of this related to Lilliput, which was just this is the whole reason I write these books, is because it's a joy to play with so many concepts.
No, I can see it on your face as you're talking. How much fun you've been having and are going to continue to have. I saw that obviously book 2 is now available, I think, for pre-order.
Yes,
I know it's got its own Amazon page. I assume people could be buying it. Have you finished book 3 also at this point?
I haven't finished it. I've gotten most of the way through it. It's going to be out about a year from now, so I need to have finished it.